Okay, so I found this fabric at the Scrap Exchange, and I loved it because it has like this metallic stars in it, and it makes you feel like a galaxy. And I really want to have this as a piece of clothing, but I have absolutely no idea how to make a piece of clothing. So today I'm going to try to make a tank top. The tank top I'm making is inspired by this tank top, which I have worn absolutely to death because I really like the fabric, and I also like the shape of it because it's just really simple and easy to wear. And this fabric doesn't have a lot of stretch in it, just like the Galaxy fabric. So I'm modeling my tank top after that. So I kind of laid this out on my fabric and traced it, leaving a little bit of room on the outside so that I can make some hems and stitches. So I have this one that I just hemmed. So I was trying to figure out how to make it straight. So I measured on this tank top like how thick this hem was, which was about 1/2 inch. So I made this strip, and then I traced it across with this and marked that, and then folded it over and pinned it. And then I remembered learning how to do a back stitch. So that is the stitch that I used. So you can kind of see how I back stitched it, because I figured that would be pretty strong and there wouldn't be any gaps. So next I think I'm gonna try and hem the sleeves as well. And I also have my back of my tank top cut out, so I've got to hem that as well. This fabric, I feel like it's going to unravel, so that's why I'm trying to hem it before I sew it together. So we'll see how that goes. I'm not sure how to hem these curved lines, but I'm going to just try and measure 1/2 inch and pin it all the way around, and hopefully it won't buckle. So we'll see how that goes. All right, that went pretty well. So like I measured this little 1/2 inch piece, and I went around and used my marker to mark 1/2 inch all the way up, and then I drew a line and I folded it over and pinned it all along. So now I'm gonna try and sew it with that same back stitch that I did. I just finished sewing the hem on the sleeve, and it didn't buckle that much. I think it's pretty good. So now I'm gonna try to do the other sleeve, and then I'll do the collar, and then I gotta do the whole other tank top. I think I'm gonna leave these edges because I know I'm gonna sew them together, so that will kind of act like the hem. Same thing with the tops here. So I know that's where it will attach to the back, so I'm not going to worry about hemming those parts, but I'm going to hem this and this and this and this. So after pinning this sleeve, I'm noticing that this armpit is deeper than that one. So I'm going to try to adjust that by cutting the fabric. So I'm going to take all those pins out, unfortunately, and re-pin them after I have made it look a little more symmetrical, which is going to be hard to do since I've already pinned it on the other side. So we'll see. I'm really glad I did that because that looks a lot better. It's still probably not perfect, but it's better than before. So I'm going to proceed with making progress. I have now hemmed the bottom and this sleeve and that sleeve, and it looks pretty symmetrical. All I have left to do is hem the neck part of the back, and then I'm gonna get started on the other side so that I can sew the two pieces together. I'm thinking at this point that I might change the neckline to more of a V shape because that's something that looks a little bit nicer on my body. And the cool thing about sewing your own clothing is that you can make adjustments to your preferences. So we'll see how that goes. Okay, I'm done pinning the top. What I'm discovering is the easiest one to pin was the bottom because it was straight, and then these were a little bit harder, and the neckline was even harder because it was so curved. And so I found that the more pins I used on the curved sections, the better it was. So, all right, so now I have hemmed the bottom, I hemmed the side, hemmed this side, and I hemmed the collar. It's a little buckled, and I probably should have ironed it before I did that, but it's okay. I make mistakes the first time I do it. It helps me the second time. So now I'm going to do this exact same thing to the back of my tank top that I've already cut out. And maybe it'll be faster and easier the second time I do it. So since I had trouble making it symmetrical last time, before hemming it, I went ahead and made sure that it was symmetrical by folding it in half and matching it up and cutting off any edges that overlapped. So now it should be nice and symmetrical so that when I sew it up, it looks good. So the other part of it is probably not symmetrical, but I feel like that's going to be okay, especially since that's the back of the shirt. Mistakes are okay. So I'm working on the front of the shirt, and I have made the bottom hem. I feel like this was a lot more successful, and I ran out of thread about right here, and so I tied a knot and I started another thread, which I'm glad I did because it's a lot more secure. I'm not that worried about the other side of the tank top, but because I'm going to be sewing the side so it'll secure it, but I didn't really have enough thread left when I sewed that to tie it off securely. So it's probably would fall out if I didn't re-secure it on the side. So next I'm going to do the sleeves and the collar. And I did kind of make the front a little bit pointier, but not all the way pointy. Right, so I finished sewing the bottom hem of the front of the tank top. And I almost ran out of thread towards the end, about right here I ran out. And I tied it off and then started a new thread, which let me secure it down with a knot that was stronger than the last one where I almost ran out of thread and couldn't really tie a knot that was very strong. Also, I made the neckline of this one pointier, so it looks like the front. And also, I wanted it to be pointy because that style of shirt looks better on me than a scoop neck. So now I have to sew the hem of the sleeves and the collar, and then I'll be ready to start attaching the front to the back to make the tank top shirt. The sleeve, and last time I did this, it was kind of buckled. So this time I used more pins, and I kind of tried to pull the fabric taut as I was pinning it, and hopefully that will help it lay straighter. All right, I've just finished sewing the hem on the sleeve, and that actually went pretty well. It was much easier for me to sew the second time, and it looks like it buckled a little bit less because I used more pins and kind of tried to straighten out the fabric as I was going along. So now I just need to hem the other sleeve. Okay, so I now have the bottom hemmed and both sleeves are done. This one came a lot faster. It's a little curly, it's a little bumpy, but I think that's okay. I'm now gonna try and hem this collar that's a little pointier than the other collar, and we'll see how that goes. Catch you next time. Okay, so what I had to do here was actually cut a line down the center of the middle part, because when I tried to pin around, This buckled super bad because it was such a sharp curve. So there's going to be like a split in it, and it will hopefully create like a point down there. So we'll see how that turns out. I have now hemmed the collar, hemmed the sleeves, and the bottom of both the front and the back. So now I think I'm gonna go iron them, and then we're gonna start trying to figure out how to attach the sleeves and the sides to make an actual shirt. Hey, okay, so I finally completed my tank top, and what I did was I hemmed I made two sides, and then I hemmed a 1/2 inch around the sleeves and the bottoms and the other sleeve and the collar, and I left these edges raw, and then I sewed them together. I turned it inside out and I laid it on top of each other, and I created a straight edge down the side, and then I sewed it together, and then I turned it inside out. So what happened at that point is then I tried it on, and I guess I didn't leave enough space, and the tank top that I created it based off of, the fabric does have a little bit of give to it, so it's easier to fit, and this one doesn't have that. So when I tried it on, it was too big around my boobs. So I measured myself, and I made some panels for the sides like this, and I sewed those in to make the tank top a little bit bigger on both sides. So I guess what I learned from this is that I need to make sure that I leave lots of room in my fabric when I cut it, just in case I need to make it smaller. And so for my second tank top, I made two, and I went ahead and measured. This length is about 45 inches, which is plenty of room for me to hem it and also have room in case I need to let it out. And I also made sure that it was symmetrical this way, and also that both of my shirts were the exact same. So I cut them out first and then measured them against each other. Also, I made this guy, which is going to be kind of my pattern that I'll use based on this one. And if this one turns out good, then I'll have this and I can remake it exactly the same with another fabric. So we'll see how this one goes. I might actually try this one with a sewing machine. Sewing machines kind of scare me because I feel like whenever I've tried to learn to use them, they tend to get all tangled up, and it just creates obstacles for me that are frustrating. And I also really enjoy the process of kind of going in and out with a needle, which is not something that you can do with a sewing machine. But also, it does take a really long time to hem all the way around and then sew it together by hand. I have a feeling that if I did this one by hand, that it would take me less time this time, because I did discover that at first I was using this thread, which is like covered in polyester, and it's extra strong hand sewing thread. And then after that, I tried it. I kind of like ran out of this thread, and I didn't want to run out. So then I started using the black thread, and this thread is all-purpose thread, and so it didn't get tangled as much. And so that went by a little bit faster, even though this thread is a bit stronger. I feel like sewing with this all-purpose thread for this next project might help the process go by a little faster. So we'll see how that goes, and I will update you throughout the process of making this purple tank top. And I can try this on for you so you can see how that looks. Okay, so it looks like this, and it kind of has like a pointy neck, and there's a little bit of a gap here, which I'm not sure how to fix when I put my shoulders back, but it doesn't bother me that much, and I like this kind of shorter length, so I can wear it with shorts that are a little higher, and it doesn't look so funny. And I like that it's kind of a straight line going down, and it creates kind of a straight long line. In the future, it might be interesting to try something that kind of cinches in, but that feels like it's going to be difficult. So I'll wait until I feel more comfortable to do that. So we'll see how this next project turns out.